All right, we are live. So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Emily Boulanger with the Louisiana State Bar Association. Welcome to our Law Talks virtual web shop series. Today's Law Talk is on expungements. We have attorney Lauren Critchko with the Justice and Accountability Center of Louisiana presenting on this important topic. Before we get started, I need to go over a few important reminders. First, this presentation is being live streamed. Questions will be taken at the end if time permits and answered live. If you're watching at a library, you may walk up to the computer to ask or submit your question to the library staff. If you are watching via Zoom, please use the Q&A section. And if you're watching via Facebook, please submit questions in the comment section. Please remember that all comments are public and visible during and after the presentation. Finally, please keep your questions general and not case specific. The attorney can provide information about the law and legal processes, but cannot give advice on individual cases. Please note that the information provided in this presentation does not and is not intended to constitute legal advice. Instead, all information, content, and materials are for general informational purposes only. No viewer of this video should act or refrain from acting based on information provided in this presentation without first seeking legal advice from counsel in the relevant jurisdiction. If you need assistance finding legal help in Louisiana, please go to the Louisiana Civil Legal Navigator. The link is listed here. The LSBA's inclusion of a program is not deemed to be a statement or an endorsement of the views expressed therein by the LSBA or any member of the LSBA. Speakers on LSBA programs are carefully selected for their knowledge, but neither the LSBA nor the speaker warrant that the presentations or materials were free of errors or will continue to be accurate. Statements in the presentations and their materials should be verified before relying on them. Opinions expressed are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect opinions of the LSBA, its sections, or committees. Views expressed are those of the authors and contributors only. So as I mentioned, our presenter today is Lauren Critchko, and she has a ton of experience with expungement cases, and I am happy to turn it over to you now, Lauren.
Thank you, Emily. So like she said, my name is Lauren Critchko. I am the legal director here at the Justice and Accountability Center. Just a little bit about what we do at the Justice and Accountability Center. We provide re-entry services to individuals coming out of incarceration. We do that through driver's license reinstatement. We help individuals with TWIC waivers due to their criminal record. We do a little bit of child support for individuals that may be impacted while they are actually incarcerated. And then we do expungements. So in our New Orleans office, which is in the Urban League building, we host a monthly expungement clinic every second Wednesday of the month. It's completely free for the community to come to. So individuals that come to our clinic will actually meet with an attorney, we'll go over their eligibility, and if they are eligible, they will leave our clinic with their motion for expungement already completed and next steps on how they can actually file on their own. I did also want to put a plug in that we are opening, or I should say we have a Baton Rouge office. We will start accepting clients on this upcoming Monday. But if you're interested in either the clinic or our Baton Rouge office, my contact information is on the last slide. And also, I know they say keep your questions till the end, but I am going to try and ask if y'all have any questions as we go, because I know that this topic is sometimes confusing. All right, so here's what you can expect for today. We'll first talk about how a criminal record is created. We'll talk about who's actually eligible for expungement. We'll talk about the required documents for actually filing that motion. We'll talk about what should be filed, how much it costs if you can get that fee waived. And then we'll also talk about some agencies that will always be able to see an expunged record. Okay, so I like to start with this slide and explain what a criminal record is and how it's created and how do we even get to needing an expungement. So when a person first commits the offense, they are either arrested or they receive a summons in lieu of arrest. So a summons is essentially just a ticket that the individual actually signs and they promise to come back to court. After the individual is arrested, they will be placed in a holding facility. The holding facility is generally run by the parish sheriff jail. From there, from the time you're arrested and from the time that you're actually in jail, you have to have a bond hearing within 48 to 72 hours. And from there, if the individual cannot actually post the bond, they will remain incarcerated while the district attorney actually screens the case. When the district attorney is screening the case, they're just looking at the police report, the body cams to see if there's actually enough evidence to charge that person with what they're arrested on. So from the time that the DA is screening the case till formal charges actually being filed, the DA has 45 to 150 days to actually bring charges against that individual. It depends on if the individual is still incarcerated and then also the severity of the crimes. In Louisiana, an individual is formally charged by bill of information or bill of indictment. It's essentially just a piece of paper that has the defendant's name on it and the crime that they allegedly committed. From the time that formal charges are actually filed, generally you can work out a plea. The district attorney may say that there wasn't enough to actually charge you with the crime that would result in a refusal, or some type of diversionary program, or the individual plea. If you can't do any of those, you can't work anything out, and the client wants to go to trial, the district attorney has 1 to 3 years to actually bring that individual to trial. From the time that you go to trial, you'll either be found guilty or not guilty, and then you'll be sentenced. I bring all of this up because there is a lot of different actors that will hold a criminal record. So from the time you're arrested, it's generally you're arrested by your local police department. That creates the first record of that arrest. From there, once you are actually processed through the holding facility and fingerprinted, the sheriff will then hold a record. The sheriff then shares that with the district attorney, the court, Louisiana State Police, and Louisiana State Police ultimately reports that to the FBI. So this is just a quick overview of what we are going to talk about in the next few slides. I just like to give an overview because this is a lot of information. And so, like I said, if you do have a question, I'll ask after each one of these slides if anybody has a question, because I do understand that this is quite confusing. So the first thing we'll talk about today is if an individual was arrested, but they weren't actually convicted. Generally, there is no waiting period. So a few ways that you can be arrested and not actually be convicted was if the charge was refused by the district attorney, the charge was dismissed, quashed, or the individual was found not guilty, or if the individual successfully completed a diversionary program. And the last one, I don't see this very often, but the last one is if the individual was factually innocent and wrongfully convicted. Those are all the ways that you may be eligible if you were not actually convicted of the offense. For misdemeanors, sometimes there's a waiting period. So there's two different ways to be eligible for a misdemeanor conviction to actually be expunged. It's either 5 years since the completion of any sentence. 2 is if the individual pled guilty under Article 894 and probation was terminated satisfactory. And the third bullet point on here is kind of an exception. It's for if an individual was convicted of first offense possession of marijuana. You don't have to wait for the 5 years of the 894. It's 90 days from the date of conviction. For this one, there is actually a separate form that you would use to actually file the expungement, but it's 90 days from the date of conviction. And then for felony convictions, there's 3 different pathways to make an individual eligible for a felony conviction. So the first way is 10 years since the completion of sentence. The second way is if the individual has a first offender pardon. And the third way is if the individual pled guilty under Article 893 and their probation was terminated satisfactory. So that's just a quick overview of what we are going to discuss in detail in the next few slides. Okay. Before I start with this, I just want to say that all of the laws for expungement law can be found in Louisiana Code of Criminal Procedure Article 971 through 999.1. So if an individual was arrested, but they weren't actually convicted, this is governed by Article 976. This is if the person was not prosecuted and prescription has run, if the district attorney declines to prosecute, or on the minute entry, you would see that they refused the charge, if the charges were dismissed, quashed, or the individual was found not guilty. And then dismissal if you actually successfully completed a diversionary program. This is for all diversionary programs except for DWI diversion. There is one exception in the law for DWI diversion that says that the individual has to wait 5 years from the date of their arrest to become eligible for that record to be expunged. And the final way is if the individual was factually innocent and wrongfully convicted. I very rarely see these, but it is there. It is there. Do I have any questions on if you were arrested but not convicted? And Emily, I don't know if somebody can see the questions.
We don't have any questions at this time.
Okay, cool. All right. And this is a flow chart that I will share with Emily after the presentation, that you can kind of have in front of you if you have, clients coming to you for expungements, that it can kind of just walk through to determine if that person is eligible for expungement. But I will share that with Emily after this. That we have flow charts for no convictions, misdemeanors, and felonies, and I'll share all of them after this with Emily to get to everybody. All right, so before we talk about felony and misdemeanor convictions and how you become eligible for those, let's talk about what is a felony and what is a misdemeanor. So, a felony in Louisiana is either a death or a hard labor sentence. So, you're going to look for words like with or without hard labor, at hard labor, or death or imprisonment. So, if you're sentenced to anything over 1 year imprisonment or at DOC, it's going to be a felony. The law explains misdemeanors are any crime other than a felony. Generally, if you're looking at minutes and you're trying to determine if somebody's eligible for expungement, you're going to look for fines and fees owed, a sentence, a DOC sentence less than a year, but this can be up to 2 years probation. I also leave on here that you should be careful when looking at eligibility because you need to consider what the sentencing at the time was. So I'll use the example of second possession of marijuana. So for second offense possession of marijuana, I believe up until 2013, I want to say that was a felony. It's a misdemeanor now, but when you're actually trying to determine eligibility, you're going to look at what the sentencing was at the time of the offense and not what it is now. So if you're completing that motion and it was prior to 2013, you would be checking on the actual motion for expungement that it was a felony conviction. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so when we're talking about felonies and misdemeanors, we also need to consider Article 894 and Article 893. I know there is a lot more to 893 and 894 than what I'm going to explain, but I'm going to try and explain this in the simplest terms in regards to eligibility for expungements. So 893 and 894, it's whether the sentence was deferred or suspended. Deferred means that the clock doesn't run on the actual sentence until it's terminated, and suspended, the clock runs on sentence in real time. I'll show you an example in the next few slides of what I mean. But 893s are for felonies and 894s are for misdemeanors. So this is what a suspended sentence would look like. So if an individual was sentenced to 4 years probation, say on year 3, they mess up on probation, they only have to serve out 1 more year in jail or prison because their time has been running this entire time. So they are getting credit for all 3 years that they were on probation. Whereas a deferred sentence, if they mess up year 3, they haven't been getting credit for that entire time that they were on probation because the sentence doesn't truly run until it's concluded. So here, if they were to mess up on year 3, they'd have to serve out their 4 years in prison or jail. Before I move on, is there any questions on that?
There are a couple questions.
Okay.
Can you restate the 3 ways that I think a felony can be expunged?
Yep. I'll go back to that. And we're going to go into each of these in more detail. This was just a preview of what we're going to actually discuss. So the 3 ways are going to be 10 years since the completion of sentence, if that individual has a first offender pardon, or if they pled guilty under 893 and their probation was terminated satisfactory. Those are the 3 ways for a felony to become eligible.
Wonderful, thank you. And then the second question is, does expungement apply to any and all criminal records, for example, speeding tickets, DWI, or any other misdemeanor?
So generally what I tell individuals for traffic offenses, if you were arrested for the traffic offense, you should absolutely do an expungement. But if you're trying to just expunge traffic tickets that you weren't actually arrested for, it really has no real impact because you cannot expunge a driving record. I think there was also a question about DWIs. DWIs, you would be arrested, so a criminal record would be created. So you would definitely need an expungement for that. But for traffic, I generally advise people not to do it because it's not actually it's not going to have the effect that you would think. So only if you were arrested for traffic.
Okay, thank you. That's all the questions right now.
Perfect. Okay. All right, so now let's talk about misdemeanor convictions and how an individual would actually be eligible to have that offense expunged. So this is governed by Article 977. The first way that an individual is eligible to have their misdemeanor expunged is if there's been more than 5 years since the completion of sentence, they have no felony convictions in that 5 year period, and they have no pending felonies against them. So you just got to be careful with misdemeanors. It is 5 years since the completion of any sentence. So just keep that in mind when you're actually looking at a record and trying to determine eligibility. So the one exception that I already stated earlier is if an individual actually pled guilty or was found guilty of first offense possession of marijuana, you only have to wait 90 days from the date of conviction. And like I stated earlier, there is a separate motion for expungement that you would fill out for that one. The next way that an individual is eligible for a misdemeanor to be expunged is if their guilty plea was under Article 894, their probation was terminated satisfactory, and they have not been convicted of any other offense during that probationary period, and that they have no criminal charges pending against them. So those are the only two ways that you can get a misdemeanor expunged. There are a few misdemeanors that are never eligible for expungement, but I have that and all the felonies that are never eligible for expungement in another slide, so we'll address that there. So again, this is the flow chart that I'll share with Emily after that y'all can have in front of you if you're trying to determine eligibility. All right, felonies. Let's talk about felony convictions and how they can be expunged. So this is governed by Article 978. There are three ways or three pathways how I like to think about it. So the first one is if more than 10 years since the completion of any sentence, they have no other criminal convictions for a period of 10 years, and they have no pending charges against them. That is the first way that somebody is eligible. The second way is if that individual has a first offender pardon. You'll know if you or your client has a first offender pardon. If it's your first felony conviction, it's not a crime of violence, and you've paid all outstanding fees. So generally, if you don't know if you have a first offender pardon, but it is your first felony, you just have to contact your local probation and parole. Just go up there, you'll need your date of birth, your name, and they'll be able to look in the system if you actually have that first offender pardon. The third and final way for a felony conviction to be eligible for expungement is if that individual pled under Article 893, their probation was terminated satisfactory, they've not been convicted of any other offense during that probationary period, and they have no criminal charges pending against them. I do put in here also, this can include individuals that have successfully completed a drug court program. So if you're looking at records and you see that somebody did actually do a drug court program, you probably won't see that they put under Article 893, but the law has changed, I believe, in 2024 to actually include drug court programs now too. It is completely, for the drug court program in the 893 at least, it is completely discretionary for the judge. But in my experience, generally individuals that do drug court get really close with the judge. The judge knows that, they're trying to turn their life around, and they will generally give them that 893, which would then make them eligible for the expungement. Before I move on, does anybody have questions about arrest without conviction, misdemeanors, or felonies?
There is one question. Okay.
Okay.
What type of criminal records actually affect your right to vote in public elections?
So I'm not an expert on voting, so I cannot answer that. But afterwards, I can send a link that there is a organization in Louisiana called Vote, and they actually have a whole web page about who can actually vote, and like if you've been off of parole for, I believe, like 2 years, it is. You can vote. So I'll share that information afterwards, but like I said, I'm not an expert on voting, so I'll share that afterwards. Let me just make a note of that. Any other questions?
Like we oh does expungement for an 894 allow you to apply for military service?
I am not sure. I believe that the military is one of the agencies that will always be able to see your record, though. Look, I'm not an expert on any military stuff, but as long as you get your record expunged and you can generally just show that, you're no longer that person and explain that, um, yeah, that's generally what I would say because they will be able to see that. So
Oh, okay, wonderful. Thank you. And Stephanie went ahead and shared the vote
thank you.
link with people.
Perfect, thank you. And I will say on the military thing, there are attorneys, I believe it's Emily, correct me if I'm wrong if you know, but I believe there's like, is it JAG? There's like attorneys that are actually in the military that you can go to for advice on stuff like this. Do you know, Emily?
I'm not entirely sure about any of that. I know the JAG trains do exist. I just don't know what their scope of their services are.
Okay. Yeah, generally, if somebody comes to me and they're trying to be in the military, I tell them that they should consult with an attorney that's actually like in the specific branch of the military that you're trying to go into.
Sure, absolutely. Okay, and then we have one question. What are the typical fees and processing time, I guess, for expungements?
I'm not going to answer that yet because I'm going to answer it in the next few slides, actually.
Okay.
It's
Um,
550 as a preview.
yeah, okay.
Any other
All
questions?
right. And then if an expungement is awarded under 893, would
Mhm.
I be able to carry a gun as a fire marshal?
I feel like I'm saying this a lot. I'm not an expert on gun rights, but my understanding of getting your gun rights back, it's a federal issue and not a state level issue. What I have been told, again, I'm not an expert on gun rights, but what I have been told, as long as it's been 10 years and you have that expungement done, you can legally possess a firearm. I don't know if you can actually go to like an academy and purchase one because they will run an FBI background check and they will see that record. I can also share a name of an individual that is like a gun rights expert that we at JAC always refer to. His name is Christy Smith. I believe he's out of Lafayette, but he's like the expert on gun rights. So I can share that as well afterwards. But that's generally what I have been told that you can legally possess. And when I'm saying this, this is just the state of Louisiana. So you can legally possess it as long as it's been 10 years and you have that expungement done.
Okay, wonderful. We still have some more questions coming in if you want
Yeah,
to
okay.
okay. Um, if a person is arrested and the charges were dropped for a misdemeanor, should you have the record expunged?
Yes, because in Louisiana, anytime you are arrested, your that arrest, whether it's an arrest or a conviction, it will always remain on your Louisiana State Police background check until you get it expunged.
Okay. Uh, do the same basic rules apply to juvenile convictions?
No, I do not address juvenile convictions in here, but if you are interested in more about juvenile expungements, I can talk to you afterwards. We don't process juvenile expungements at JAC because Louisiana Center for Children's Rights, generally after the individual actually completes, whether it's a conviction or like a diversionary program, generally the Center for Children's Rights does those expungements. But if you're interested, my contact information is on the last slide in here. Just reach out to me and say that you're interested in knowing more about juvenile expungements, and I can probably connect you with Center for Children's Rights.
Okay, wonderful. Oh, more questions. Um, do no
Emily,
convic
I don't know if these are like about if the questions are about like misdemeanors, felonies, I'll answer them now, but for all the other questions, if you don't mind, I'll answer them at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. This one is more of a parole question. So you want to continue on
Yeah,
with your
yeah, yeah,
presentation?
yeah. Yep, I'll do that now. All right. Thank you, Emily.
No problem.
Okay, so this is a flow chart for felony convictions. Like I said, you will get this at the end of the presentation so that you can have it with you when trying to figure out if somebody is eligible. All right, let's talk about charges that are never expungible. First one being domestic abuse battery, stalking. The third one is if you were arrested on a sex offense and you plead guilty to a non-sex offense misdemeanor, you are eligible for an interim expungement. not a full expungement. An interim expungement is only going to take out the arrest. It's not going to take out the conviction. Um, Number 4 is crimes of violence. So that can be found in Louisiana Revised Statute 14.2. There are 6 crimes of violence that do become eligible as long as you have 10 years since the completion of sentence, you haven't been convicted of any other criminal offense during that 10-year period, and you have no pending criminal charges against you. So the 6 crimes of violence that become eligible after 10 years is simple robbery, purse snatching, aggravated battery, second-degree battery, aggravated criminal damage to property, and illegal use of weapons or dangerous instrumentalities. So those are the 6 crimes of violence that are eligible. Everything else that's listed on the crime of violence list is never expungible. The fifth charge that is never expungible is if it's a sex offense that requires some type of registration. Number 6 is crimes against children. Here, just based on my experience, I can tell you if somebody was convicted of selling drugs in a school zone, for example, it's never expungible. The 7th way is carnal knowledge of a juvenile. And the 8th way is distribution or attempted distribution of a controlled dangerous substance. So there's kind of a caveat to this one. Distribution or attempted distribution of any drug is never expungible unless that individual has a first offender pardon. All right, and then this is just a list of everything, all the crimes of violence that are never expungible. I can also share this after the presentation as well. Okay, so let's talk about the required documents for actually filing the motion. So you're going to have that 8-page expungement motion, which includes the actual motion for expungement, the hearing order, affidavits of response, and the order of expungement. These can all be found in the code. Like I said, the code for expungement starts at 971 and goes to 999.1. The forms are towards the end of those articles, though. So when you're actually filing your 8-page expungement motion, what is actually required to be attached to that motion? First, you should make sure that you either have a parish sheriff's background check or a Louisiana State Police background check that's dated within the last 60 days. Also, a certification letter from the district attorney's office. This is only if you're relying on 5 or 10 years since the completion of your sentence. That's the only time that you would actually have to include that certification letter. So generally, if you come to our clinics, we'll fill out that certification letter for you, and then you'll just go give it to the district attorney to sign off on it. But that is required to actually be filed with the motion. Like I said, if you're relying on 5 or 10 years passage of time. Some other paperwork that's recommended, it's not required, but it would be a certified minute entry showing the final disposition. So that's going to be, how did the case conclude? So was it dismissed? Did you plead guilty? You should always, in my experience, you should always attach that so that state police actually knows what happened to the charge that you're arrested on. And on this point, I will just say that Louisiana has a very low disposition rate, meaning that once an individual is arrested in the state of Louisiana, we don't have one system. We all parishes have different systems. And so generally when you're arrested, state police has no record of what actually happened after you're arrested. They have no idea if the charge was a conviction or if it was dropped. They have no idea. So it's very helpful to include that minute entry that shows what actually happened with the charge. The other thing that you should file with is a bill of information if you have one, and then a first offender pardon if that's the pathway of eligibility that you are relying on to actually file that motion for expungement. Okay, so somebody earlier asked about cost. So it is $550 to file a motion for expungement. This will go by arrest date. So if you were arrested 10 times, it's going to be $550 times 10. There are a few ways that you can get this fee waived. The first way being a district attorney's fee waiver. The individual is eligible for a DA fee waiver if your charges were dismissed, refused, found not guilty, or wrongfully convicted. This does not include if the individual actually did a diversionary program. They're not eligible for a fee waiver. The other thing that has to be true to qualify for a DA fee waiver is you have to have no felony convictions and no pending felonies against them. All three of those have to be true in order to qualify for that district attorney fee waiver. There's another way that you can get the fee waived. The law changed in 2018 to actually include in forma pauperis affidavits now as a fee waiver. So generally, this is only used in civil context. And in the civil context, generally, if you file the in forma pauperis, whoever the losing party is at the end of the case, the losing party generally has to pay fees. This is not true for expungements. It will waive the fee completely. It's a fee waiver, not a fee delayer. So a few ways that you can qualify to have that IFP actually get the expungement fees waived is if you are 125% below the federal poverty guidelines. And then the next way is if you receive government benefits. So that's going to be SNAP, sometimes Medicaid, because I know the requirements for Medicaid have changed a little bit. If you receive a housing voucher or SSI or SSDI, you would likely qualify to fill out that IFP. If you do qualify for this, essentially you would complete that IFP, you'd file it with the clerk of court. Some judges require a hearing. If you had the hearing, you'd go to that. And once the judge actually signs that IFP, that's when you can actually file the motion for expungement after that, because that waives the entire fee. Okay, somebody I believe asked about this too. So how long before I have a clean record? So from the time that your motion for expungement is actually filed, certain agencies, this is going to be Louisiana State Police, your arresting agency, and your parish DA. They have 60 days from the date of service to actually oppose the motion. If 60 days has passed, the judge should sign off on the motion without a hearing. But I'll tell you, if you're in like New Orleans or Jefferson Parish, most courts require a hearing for your expungement, even if they receive no opposition in that 60 days. So if you do file a motion, just be looking out for a sheriff to actually come to your house to serve you a court date to go for your motion for expungement hearing. Generally, I tell clients at your motion for expungement hearing, you'll state your name on the record, and then the district attorney will generally say that they've received, they don't have an opposition and no other party has opposed. And then at that time, the judge would actually grant the motion for expungement. So I put another bullet point on here. How long can you expect before it's actually cleared off of your criminal background? So what I've been telling people is in about 6 months after your motion for expungement has been granted, it should be off of your background check. I say should because sometimes state police is extremely backed up, but you will know that it will no longer appear on your background check when you receive something in the mail from state police. It's just a piece of paper. It's called a certificate of compliance. It says, hey, we got the granted order of expungement. We've complied with it and we've notified the FBI. So I would say about 6 months after your expungement is actually granted is when it will be cleared off of your background check. All right, this is the last slide and then I'll answer questions, but these are agencies that will always be able to see a criminal record. So basically, if you need a license to do your job, that licensing board will forever be able to see an expunged record. However, it will show on your background check that it's been expunged. And I will say at Justice and Accountability Center, if you are applying for any type of license and you have to go before a board and you have a criminal record, we will actually take you on as a client. We'll do the expungement and we will help you navigate through actually, going in front of the board if you have to and preparing any documentation to show that, I'm not this person anymore. Here's why I should be able to work in whatever field you're trying to work in. So this is just a quick list of agencies that will forever be able to see a criminal record. I will also include on here, if you're going to work at a school boards will always be able to see it as well. But again, you can, once your record's actually expunged, JAC is here to actually help you navigate through that board process. And questions?
Yes, there are questions. So, okay. If a person was never ordered to do probation, but had parole with no conviction, would they be eligible for an expungement?
parole with no conviction.
I'm not quite sure. Maybe the question asker can provide a little a clarification, um, and then we will come back to it.
Yeah.
Okay. Where would someone obtain an application to apply for an expungement?
So most clerks of court, wherever the parish that you have an arrest out of, you can get it from the clerk of court's office. Generally, they'll have some printed. Um, but if they do not, you can go in the code article. So I said it's from 971 to 999.1. Just click through. You'll find the actual motion for expungement, the hearing order, affidavit of response, and the order of expungement. And you can just print that out actually and fill it out. But I will say, if you come to our clinic, we will do all of that for you.
Wonderful. That's a great segue to this question. What time is the second Wednesday clinic?
So individuals start lining up very early in the morning because it is first come, first serve. We do start intake at 9 a.m. So intake is going to be getting basic information, taking your paperwork, and then the participant will actually come back at 5 p.m. that same day to meet with the attorney. That attorney will go over their eligibility. If they're eligible, the motion for expungement will already be completed. And then that attorney will actually advise them on next steps on, how to file on your own, what to expect, everything like that.
Wonderful. Okay. Can you start the process for a felony expungement prior to the 10-year period being completed?
No, unless you have an 893 or a first offender pardon.
All right. Does getting an expungement allow you to be granted hunting rights?
That sounds kind of like gun rights again, and I will share the name of the individual that is the expert in this. He gave a very brief training to us about a couple of years ago. So I will share his contact information because if anybody calls my office and asks about gun rights, I always refer them to him because that's not what I do, but that's
Right.
yeah.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. And then what paperwork is required for the clinic?
Okay, so in order to come to our clinics, if you have New Orleans only charges, you just need to go to the clerk of court and get an expungement packet. For any other parish that's not New Orleans, you will have to have your bill of information, your sentencing minutes, and either a parish sheriff's background check or a Louisiana State Police background check.
Um,
And I can also share our like upcoming clinic flyer for you to share with individuals as well, because that has all those documents on it.
okay, perfect. That'd be great because another attendee is asking where the clinics are located.
Yep, so it's at Urban League. It's 4640 South Carrollton.
All right. Um, can you talk about global global dismissal for 893?
I need a little clarification. I'm not sure what they mean.
Okay, perfect. If the questioner can provide a little more context, that'd be really helpful, and we'll get back to that question. Okay. When does the 10-year mark start for felony expungement? After the release date from prison or the parole finish date?
The parole finish date. It's once your sentence is completed. So your sentence isn't technically complete until you're off of parole.
Um, this person's just asking uh, for the contact person for your gun rights
Okay,
attorney.
I'll share. His name is Christy Smith. He runs, I think it's like Louisiana Expungement. I don't remember what the whole acronym stands for, but I'll share his contact information for anybody that has questions about gun rights. Because like I said, we at JAC, we always refer them to him.
Is it okay?
His name is S. Christy Smith.
Yes. Okay. Is it Louisiana Expungement Assistance and Advocacy
Yes,
Center?
yes, that.
I will put the link to his website into the chat in just a minute.
Okay.
Um, okay. All right, here we go. Okay, here's back to the 893 question. If you receive an Article 893 but have other convictions on your record, see how the global dismal fits into this? I'm not quite sure.
I'm not sure what the global, I'm not familiar with what that is.
Okay. How about if you receive an Article 893, how does that affect any other convictions you still have on your record? I don't
In in what re in what regard? I guess if I don't know if they're trying to get at like if you can be like multiple billed as an offender. I'm not really sure if that's what you're trying to ask. Just put that in
know.
the chat. I'm not sure.
Okay. We'll circle back to that if we get a little more. Um,
Okay.
can you get other convictions dismissed if you get an Article 893 expungement, maybe?
Other convictions dismissed. Well, the 893 would only be for that specific case. So that 893 is only going to impact that specific case, not any other convictions that you have.
Okay.
I'm not
Okay.
sure if that's what's actually being asked, but that's what I would say.
I think that's what the questioner is asking. Um, yes, they said yes. Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Um, all right. Can you talk about how domestic abuse or battery works in an expungement case, or if there's any sort of exceptions there?
There's not. So if you pled guilty to domestic abuse battery, you are never eligible for expungement. I will point out though, if you have like battery on a dating partner and it's a misdemeanor, that is eligible for expungement. But the law has carved out that domestic abuse battery is no longer eligible for expungement ever.
Okay, here we go. So the paperwork they need to bring to your clinic that you talked about, the bill of information and such, where would they go get that information or those
Yep.
papers?
Yep. So you can go to whatever parish that you were arrested, convicted, and you can go to the clerk of court and ask for the bill of information and the sentencing minutes. I will say if your charge was ultimately dismissed, you will likely not have that bill of information, and that's okay. But you will need that minutes and that background check also that you can either get from Louisiana State Police or the parish sheriff. And I just want to put like a little plug here for the background check for Louisiana State Police. You can either go to headquarters in Baton Rouge, or you can actually go to an Identigo location where you can actually be fingerprinted, and you will either elect to have the background check emailed or mailed to you. And I believe you can get that back in about 2 to 3 weeks. But if you do come up to Baton Rouge and go to headquarters, you'll get the background check the same day.
All right. Ooh, so many questions. Okay. Do clients still have to pay the 550 if they receive assistance from your office?
No. So our services are completely free. The 550 would be to the court if you don't qualify for one of the fee waivers that I discussed. So my services, JC services, completely free.
But the cost for the conviction, for the expungement, the filing fee, they'd still have to pay.
Yep, and that 550 is going to the clerk's office.
Correct. Okay. All right. What if you have an arrest? It's a misdemeanor battery against your partner, but the charges were dropped. Would you qualify for an expungement?
Yep, because the charges were dropped.
Where does the 550 go? So you already answered that. And why?
I can break it down even more because
Absolutely. Go
the
ahead.
550 is just like the number we tell everybody, but 250 of that goes to Louisiana State Police, 200 of that goes to the clerk of court, 50 goes to the parish sheriff, and the other 50 goes to the parish district attorney's office. And if you are paying the 550, I would talk to the clerk of court in the parish you're filing first. Because some parishes will let you write like one check or one money order, but other parishes want them in four separate money orders or four separate checks. So just check with
Okay.
your parish clerk on that.
Okay. Okay. And they want to know why it's so expensive. Um,
I I don't know. I mean, I can tell you Louisiana, I believe, has the highest filing fee in the entire United States. And I will say, just another little plug that Justice and Accountability Center, we were actually able to pass a law for automated expungements. However, it has not been funded. I do not foresee it'll be funded soon. But basically, expungements would be automatic. So when somebody became eligible for an expungement, they would fill out essentially a piece of paper with their basic information, and then expungements would be free, and that form would just be served on all agencies to take the record out. But we are very far away from that. So, like I said, the bill passed, but it has not been funded. And I will also say, I talked about this earlier, but we don't have the systems in place in Louisiana yet to actually have automated expungements. And so currently, there's like committees meeting to form that system so that all, 60 plus parishes can talk to one another and actually share that. So stay tuned on that.
okay. Um, uh, okay. If you have charges in multiple states, is there an option to handle all of them in one expungement?
No. And I will say at Justice and Accountability Center, we can only help with Louisiana charges because we are only licensed in Louisiana.
Okay. For clarification, misdemeanor domestic violence is never eligible a or is felony domestic violence never eligible for an expungement, or is it both?
It's both. So if the charge is domestic abuse battery, it is never eligible for expungement, whether it's a misdemeanor or a felony, because the Article 977 that actually dictates misdemeanor convictions lists three ways that you are never eligible for a misdemeanor to be expunged, and one of them being domestic abuse battery.
Okay.
Mhm.
Um, if you pled guilty to a sexual battery charge and it has been more than 10 years since the plea, can you get that expunged?
No, it's a sex offense.
Okay. Where can a person go to find out if they need an expungement? And what websites do you recommend where they can find the paperwork that needs to be printed?
So I would start with getting a Louisiana State Police background check to know if you need an expungement because, every time you're arrested in the state of Louisiana, it creates a record, right? So I would start with getting the Louisiana State Police background check. Again, you can either come to Baton Rouge, and go to headquarters to get that background check, or you can actually go through Identigo. So those are going to be locations that you can get fingerprinted at. Um, you'll pay them, I believe it's 20 something dollars for the background check, and then you'll either elect to get the background check mailed or emailed to you. What was the second part of the question?
What websites do you recommend that they go to look for the expungement paperwork?
So if you type in legis.la.gov, it'll bring you to the main page, and you can click on laws. And then after you click on laws, you can go to Code of Criminal Procedure, and then you can start with Article 971 and just keep clicking through until you get to the forms section, and you can copy and paste the forms. I will also say if you go on jclouisiana.org, we have all of the forms that you need on there. And just since I'm talking about this, Justice and Accountability Center, we also have an app. It's not like an app that's on your phone. It's more you're just answering questions to figure out if you're actually eligible for expungement. So if you have all of your paperwork in front of you, you can actually go through and answer questions. It'll tell you if you're eligible for expungement, and if you are, it'll actually direct you to fill in each blank, and then at the end you'll be able to print out your motion for expungement and file it on your own. We also have an IFP app. So if you do believe you qualify to proceed in forma pauperis, so that's going to be if you receive government benefits or you're 125% below federal poverty guidelines. Again, you can type in all of your information, and at the end, you'll have a printable IFP to file on your own.
It's fantastic. Okay. Um, Is your clinic available for the entire state of Louisiana?
Yes.
Oh, and then someone is just asking for the office location and contact information. Do you have a slide on that? Oh, beautiful. Okay, let's see. I think um, that's all the questions for now. I will leave it open for people to continue asking questions while I close out some of the information, while I provide some more information for people to that they might need. So I want to highlight some additional resources which may be helpful to you if you have a legal question that was not addressed during this presentation or you need help getting assistance. Can you click over to the next slide, please? So this is a flyer for the LSBA's Find Legal Help page where you can access a continuum of resources. It includes our attorney directory, the Civil Legal Navigator, legal aid and pro bono organizations, the Modest Means Directory, and self-help services. I'd like to call special attention to the Louisiana Civil Legal Navigator. Uh, this is a great sort of diagnostic tool that helps you identify your legal issues and provides customized information, referrals to legal aid, and more. It is simple to use and will give you next steps specific to your issue and or your parish and location. You can also access Free Legal Answers, which is an online pro bono program that allows users to log in whenever and wherever they feel like and ask civil legal questions that attorneys throughout the site can answer. It is private and acts almost like an email exchange between the user and the attorney. Please note that the user must meet certain income guidelines to use this program. Okay. And we do have some more questions that have popped up.
Okay.
So someone wants to know if JAC hires interns.
Yes. We're looking for interns for the summer. If you're interested in being an intern with us, send your resume to my email here.
Okay. And do y'all do only law school interns or undergrad or what are y'all looking for? Or just anyone?
We can do undergrads or law students. We've had both actually come and help out at our clinics before, so.
Okay, great. Right. If there are no other questions, it looks like we've answered all the questions. Um, I'll give people like another minute.
Okay. Do you want me to go to the last slide for you?
Oh no, you can leave your information up. That way people can
Okay.
copy it down or get whatever they need from it.
And I will also share our Baton Rouge office like flyer that you can distribute to people. So if you're located in Baton Rouge, we have a separate phone number outside of our 504 number that I'll share with Emily. But if you're in the Baton Rouge area and you're interested in doing an expungement, we do have an office here. It's at 7600 Airline Highway. I will give that number to Emily. So if you are in Baton Rouge and you're interested in getting your record expunged, call the 225 number that I'll give Emily, and we can set up an appointment with you so you don't have to actually come to a clinic. You'll have an appointment where you'll bring all of your paperwork to us. The attorney will actually fill out the motion for expungement for you. We'll also assess if you're eligible for an IFP at that time, and we'll complete that as well. But I'll share that information because this is just our New Orleans office phone number, but I'll share the information for our Baton Rouge office as well.
Wonderful, thank you.
Mhm.
Is there an office in Shreveport?
Nope, not yet. We hope to expand. If you know of
Uh,
anybody that has grants or anything that, we can get, we'll definitely come up to Shreveport.
okay. And then do y'all ever do talks in Homa?
Um, I don't think we haven't in a while. But generally if somebody like if an organization reaches out to us and it fits with our schedule and makes sense, then yeah, we'll definitely travel to give talks. And I will say I will be teaching another CLE. So if you're interested in that, follow our social media. It's jac.louisiana. We'll post when we're actually having another CLE. I will tell you it's going to be in the fall because currently legislative session is going on. And so in the fall, it will be on Zoom as well. So if you are interested in attending that 3-hour CLE, just stay tuned on our social media and I will be teaching that too. So.
Wonderful. CLEs are continuing legal education for
Oh,
those who
sorry.
may not know. And they work a lot like our webinars kind of work, where you have a presenter giving people um, in the legal field information that they can then use. All right, wonderful. It looks like that is all the questions. Nothing's come up in the last 30 seconds or so. So I will go ahead and oh, oh, people are thanking you. They really appreciate all the information you provided them.
Awesome.
Very, very grateful audience.
Awesome.
Um, so that concludes our law talk workshop for today. If you can, um, please save the date for our next law talks. It'll be on housing and landlord tenant issues, and it'll be held April 15th at noon. Um, thank you so much, Lauren, for presenting on expungements. Um, everyone is really quite grateful, and hope everyone has a wonderful day. Thank you all for attending. We look forward to seeing y'all on April 15th.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.